This policy is confusing because it is designed to confuse and keep out asylum seekers. But at its core, there are people who flee armed conflict, who flee natural disaster, and are forced to pick up their lives and move their bodies in order to survive. Some of those people need to leave their country and go to another. In the United States, we welcome people through the refugee system. And under US law and international law, if someone shows up by foot, they are also able to seek asylum. So that's what an asylum seeker is. And this policy all but makes it nearly impossible for the majority of asylum seekers to ever access that process in the United States. And, you know, what's really quite unfortunate about it is when you look at the last year in the United States, tens of thousands of Ukrainians showed up at our southern border seeking asylum. And so asylum is a necessary tool in order for the U.S. government to respond to world events that are unforeseen in the future.
Can you explain the app part of this? Because not every asylum seeker is going to have a smartphone, let alone internet access connectivity. A priest working with migrants at the Texas-Mexico border tells the Houston Chronicle, quote, "They're basically beta testing this app with human lives." I know this is like one piece of the whole thing, but help me understand it.
Sure. So if someone is successful in getting to our southern border prior to presenting at our port of entry. So the ports of entry is where you knock on the door and say, "I'm here, I fear for my life, please help me." That individual must log into this website and basically schedule an appointment to go and do that act of knocking on our door. What is deeply problematic is that this tool is new. It's causing huge problems. It uses facial recognition software that is discriminating against infants and Black migrants in particular. And so it's just very unstable. Some people are logging in and they're unable to get an appointment. And so it's really uncertain where this tool is going to actually provide value into the asylum system. But right now it is, from what I hear from my friends that do this work along the border, a total disaster.
Here's the thing. It is easy to get deep in the weeds on this, right? To talk about the transit ban itself, which may not be familiar to a lot of people. For me, I sort of was interested in the app, to talk about the app, and that may seem really out there. What we're talking about is fundamentally reimagining asylum in this country, which then becomes a bigger conversation about human rights in this country, about human dignity in this country, about whether or not we want to be a country that welcomes a stranger. When you zoom out and you're looking at this less as a technocrat, what does it tell you about the direction we are headed in?
Sure. Well, we all remember when Donald Trump descended down that escalator in 2015 to launch his candidacy for president. He said, "Mexicans are bringing crime and they are rapists." But what followed those words were the policies of ripping children from the arms of their mothers, of forcing families to sleep in tents along our ports of entry, and transit and asylum bans. And so it's important to note that the roots of this policy are the white nationalism of the Trump administration. And that's why it is so hard for advocates in the United States Congress to understand why this is the direction that the Biden administration is taking. It is a stark departure from candidate Biden, and it's a stark departure from the way the United States has processed asylum seekers for decades. And so it's really scary when we think about who belongs in the American story. I think often about whether it be my great-grandparents who showed up as migrant farm workers looking for work, or think about your grandparents who I am making assumptions, but are probably political refugees, and who belongs in the American story. The day this policy was announced, President Biden was overseas applauding Poland for accepting 1 million people, a million Ukrainian refugees. And here we are the same day saying, but if you come from south of the border, I'm not sure that you belong. And so it's pretty scary where this is headed. And, we are in very uncertain times on the path forward.